All right, welcome back to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. Mike Catalana, I'm Jenna Cottrell. Dan Fates at home with the family. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy our content. All right, August 6th, a Sunday practice here at Fisher. We had the Bills out here. Mike, takeaway number one today, we talked to Bobby Babbage, the Bills linebacker coach. He has so much insight. I loved listening to him talk today.
Yeah, a lot of energy out of Bobby Babbage. And look, he was asked about the decision and coming down to the linebackers. Number one, he said, it's two guys. It's Tyrel Dodson, Terrell Bernard. Terrell. What did he say?
I did love that he joked like they're not making it easy on me. It's Tyrell and Terrell.
Yeah.
So I did laugh at that.
Yeah, it's down to those two. That's not a surprise from what we have seen at camp. Now, he made it clear, obviously, it's Sean McDermott's decision, right? He's not only the head coach, he's the defensive coordinator. But Bobby Babbage is playing a huge role in what goes on with these guys, getting them ready to play. This is a guy who used to coach in the secondary. He knows the impact that those linebackers can make on the entire defense, the key to whoever's calling the plays there. Interesting insight that he had on both players, especially I thought with Tyrel Dodson.
Yeah, and that's a guy who obviously filled in for Tremaine Edmonds when Edmonds was out last season with some injuries. And I think he's just obviously a guy that Bobby Babbage has more familiarity with just in terms of the team because he's been on the Bills longer. But you asked a great question. You asked about, Tyrell filled in last season, but what's the difference between coming in some pinch spots and starting the entirety of the year?
Well, first of all, let's start with thank you for pointing out that he said it was a great question. But
he did.
Secondly,
damn it.
I think they know what they know about Dodson, right?
Yeah.
He was prepared. He said when you're in his role, you're ready every week. You are prepared to be a great special teams player on that day, and when they need me, I go out there. Now, there was a couple of games where he prepared to be a starter.
Yeah.
But the difference between starting a game or two and starting 17 is massive. Physically, it's different. It's demanding. Mentally, it's demanding. The amount of snaps you get week in, week out, if you're going to be that guy. But I loved what he said. He goes, he's going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
They try to have the mistakes made out here on the practice field. They don't want mistakes during the game. But he's like, none of our players are perfect. We're just trying to limit the mistakes once we get to game time. And I know that sounds simple, but the idea is, number one, he's not going to start out like Tremaine Edmonds.
No.
Tremaine was in this defense, played it every down, was out there on the field forever.
Yeah.
Dodson hasn't had that role, or Bernard, either one of them.
Yeah.
At least Dodson has had more playing experience, and that's what I think you were getting at right in the beginning. They know him better in that way.
Yeah, they do. And Bobby Babbage did say, though, the fact that they want to wrap this up sooner rather than later, which, of course, makes sense because they want that guy to get all of those reps. And that was something he talked about as well.
Your opinion here, when they wrap it up quicker, who does that favor?
Tyrel Dodson.
No question, right?
No question, because he's a guy that's had the experience. And I think he brings something that the Bills really like, and they can trust him a little bit more. Now, you talk about Terrell Bernard and the upside that he has and being a draft pick, the more athleticism, seemingly, stuff like that. But I will say two things. One, Bobby Babbage talked about so much, like they don't expect perfect in that spot. And I think that is something that we all have to remember, especially Bills fans. It's not going to be perfect, but he talked about how it's a cliche, but it's true. You learn more from your failures out there. Your successes is great. That's great to have, but the failures and what happens in that, they don't want catastrophic failures, obviously, but I think you're going to see, the level of play is going to be a little bit different because it's not Tremaine Edmonds out there. And then two, this is just something that I saw at practice today. I was using the camera and I was kind of following Tyrel Dodson and Terrell Bernard. Tyrel Dodson runs out onto the field, and similar to Josh Allen, he had not a handshake for everyone, but he went over and was like, hey man, he talked to every player that I saw on the defense in terms of like the DBs as well, the other linebackers. That just was something that stuck out to me because that's not something you're going to get graded on, but that to me stands out as a guy like wanting to connect. Maybe they might view that as taking the extra step, and maybe that's what you need to see out of a middle linebacker, a guy that can kind of have that rapport with everyone.
It's a leadership position. There's no question about it. And it's funny the way we look at guys when he's a rookie. you think, well, rookie's going to do this, and then the second year is when this happens.
Yeah.
And sometimes we all can pigeonhole a player as who he is.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe Dotson is just a special teams guy. And I said this to you earlier when we talked to Lorenzo Alexander, who was a special teams guy forever, till he really got an opportunity here from Rex Ryan.
Yeah.
And he took advantage of it, and he showed what he can do. Now, we don't know if Dotson's going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But they obviously have enough faith in him that he appears to be the leader at this moment. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed. Hey, let's see what happens on Saturday when they play a preseason game.
You
You're
read
gonna
my
see some of
mind.
it. Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm waiting to see, how the reps will be distributed, broken up, what that will feel like, what that will look like. But yeah, that is something that, talking to Bobby Babbage today, you just got some insight. And he didn't say anything groundbreaking, but
No.
I think the fact that him saying, like, it's down to 2, that says in itself, like, all right, we're in the tail end of this competition, seemingly.
All right, I want to add one other thing. You know what else? Bobby Babbage is a fun name to say.
Bobby Babbage. It really is. I will agree with that.
It's something like Elaine would say on Seinfeld. She would say, Bobby Babbage. It works. The alliteration works. I like it.
It does. All right. Well, hat tip to that. I will say, all right, the news of the day, Jordan Phillips being back out on the field. He was activated off the PUP. That's something we know Bills fans were really interested in. He had shoulder surgery, which is incredibly hard for me to say. Shoulder surgery this past offseason, and he kind of went into just how the last time he had a major surgery was back in 2013, and how this was a lot different. It just was, another major thing to kind of come back from, and just the headspace where he's at now.
Well, it's a step to get off the PUP list. He needs to get back on the practice field. Look, he's a guy they trust. A lot of fans were saying, I wonder why they're bringing him back. He had injury issues last year. He's impactful when he's healthy, but they obviously have some faith in him. But if you're him, you said that 2013, that's a decade ago.
Yeah.
And you're seeing all these young linemen who he's very high on getting snaps. Like, you got to find your role on this team.
Yeah.
That's what happens as a veteran player. You come back. He likes being in Buffalo. He likes being here. But he can't, you can't make the team if you're not playing. And he needs to be on the field. So for Jordan Phillips, big step. Get him out there. I think they have a plan for him. They trust him. I've used that word a lot. And I think it'll be good to see.
I think he brings the juice. We always joke about that, but he does. He brings that energy. And he talked about how, there's a lot of big names now on this defensive line, and he's not worried about where he fits in. He's just worried about playing his best ball, and it'll all kind of come together as it does. The chips will fall how they do. But he did have very complimentary things to say about Greg Rousseau.
Yeah, he said that guy can be a top 5 player. And he's talking about as a pass rusher in the league. Thinks he has that kind of skill. He referenced what we heard earlier. He's bigger, stronger, faster, all those things Greg Rousseau worked on. We see this a lot of times with players. They're coming out of college. Think about, they're a young person going into school. They work their way up. There's nothing like having the training that they get on an NFL field with those other players in terms of the field and off the field. Training situations, Also, most guys take it a little more seriously once they get in the league because they need to.
Yeah.
And Greg Rousseau has done those things. We know he's got the physical skills, wingspan, like Jenna, wingspan. And I tell you, he's going to have Floyd on the other side, and he's going to have Von Miller back, which can make it a really, really impactful defensive line.
Yeah, you hope that Greg Rousseau can have the season that Jordan Phillips thinks he can.
Yeah.
Eric Washington, the Bills' defensive line coach, because that would be very good things for the Bills. Like, he had 4 sacks his first season, 8 sacks last year. What will it be this?
12. It doesn't work that way?
No.
4, 8, 12.
Okay, I didn't know if you were going to do double. That's 16.
Oh, that's true. That's a good point. It could be double. See, I was going, there's a word for that. Somebody knows this.
Like
for
increments?
Math. Oh. Is it increments?
I don't. If it's math and me.
2 communications majors here. What do we know? No, but you're right. It's the pattern. So you're right. I was thinking 4, 8, 12. You were thinking 4, 8, 16. And then in 24, he's going to have 32. Oh, my God.
That's how that works, right? That's how that works.
That would be a record. But I think he can be one of those guys. And even Greg talked about it. And we mentioned this, I think, yesterday, where he said, there's numbers and stats and goals, but sometimes it's not just about sacks.
Yeah.
But you're a defensive lineman. Sacks are important. If he can get them, it'll help the team.
Those other things are great.
Yep.
But sacks are also
Impactful.
Very impactful.
Yep.
All right, another guy that we got to speak to today was Khalil Shakir, a guy who had 10 catches last season, coming off his rookie year. And I asked him, like, do you feel more comfortable now in this second season with the Bills? Like, does it just feel like better to you? And he laughed and he was like, I don't feel more comfortable. It might be a little bit easier, but he's like, I never feel comfortable.
That's interesting. I said when I first met him, Dan and I were at the first rookie mini camp, and we went to interview him, and he walked off the field introducing himself to us. He's like, "Hi, I'm Khalil." I go, "What? I know who you are." He just seemed to be one of those guys who kind of got it, at least that part of it. But the rookie years has challenges. I mean, he got some time on the field, and they really could have used somebody, and he didn't really step into a role. It's tough for rookies. To your point, while I agree what he's saying that you don't feel comfortable, he definitely feels more ready than he was a year ago. There's a level where you say, oh, I'm comfortable now, I'm fine. I do not think the son of a Marine is going to pretend to be more prepared than is accurate. His dad, we got a chance to meet his dad today because we asked Khalil about criticism in the way he looks at it. He's self-critical. He looks back and he goes, and I got my family around me. My wife's my mental coach, which I thought was cool.
That was cute.
And then he said, and my dad, and I said, well, who's the most critical? And he goes, it's probably my dad, because I know when I make a mistake in the game, I'm getting a text from him. And then we talked to his dad, who's super cool. It was great. And he said, he wasn't a football guy. No. He's not, you asked him, he's like, you're not breaking down tape here. He knows what his son can do. And at times he's like, maybe you got to make that catch, or you didn't do this. And he knows it. He knows it before his dad even hits send on the phone, that when he gets back to the locker room, he's going to see that text. But it seemed like a really, from the outside, just getting a little glimpse of it, great relationship there. It's like, he's my son, he's great, but I'm going to tell him when he's not great. And I think it works for him.
It's so fun. I feel like that is so relatable. Like, you had a nice catch here, but that one you dropped. Like, that to me is like the testament of a dad.
But he didn't seem like he's the lead with all the bad. Like, it seemed like very supportive. But it is kind of cool to see. And I asked his parents were there, and I asked and said, this is the first time we've been here to camp. I mean, it's different last year, coming this year, and they were loving it. And so it was his dad and his dad's wife were there, and she was walking over, and she was trying to take a picture, and I'm like, you can come up here and take a picture. She goes, oh, I don't want to get in the way. I go, you're not going to get in the way. It's just a bunch of media folks here. So got a picture of him being interviewed on the podium. It was sweet. It was very nice.
I didn't know that. That's very cute.
Well, I'm sort of the Rochester.
Oh, because you're not working.
I wasn't really doing much. I was asking questions. Very good questions.
Oh, you were talking?
A lot, yeah.
Weird. All right, let's talk Kyle Allen, another guy who this is someone we're going to see a lot of, especially this upcoming week. He's had some nice days of practice. I think that's someone that the Bills need him to be steady. They need him to be able to operate the offense. You don't want to see him out there, but at the same point, he just needs to be able to be the guy that the Bills think he can be.
It's such a tough job because last year, I remember, it's Case Keenum, and he played in the preseason game, and he was terrible. But he's in with a bunch of backups. And I remember saying to somebody, I don't care how he plays with the second team. It's never going to matter if Case Keenum, or now Kyle Allen, is in the game with the backups. If he's in the game with the backups, the game is over. What you want to see out of him is the idea that he can play, if you need him, with Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis and the entire offense. If he can do that, that's what you need. So in the preseason, I say we want to see snaps out of him, Jenna, but the truth is it's probably going to look disjointed for him because I don't think the starters are playing a ton in the preseason, maybe a little bit. But I want to just see how he operates, because if you need him in the field, he's out there with Diggs and Davis and everybody else in the starting lineup.
You hope the Bills don't need him, but at the same point, you want to see what you have in that, and if he's a guy that can be relied upon if needed. So,
real quick, I wanted to ask you about this. So Josh was the young quarterback, and now he's in his sixth year, right? Sixth year. At some point, this team can draft a young quarterback. I mean, I know they
Yeah.
took Jake Fromm,
Yeah.
and maybe make that guy the backup
Yeah.
in terms of this, because they've gone with the veterans, right? Trubisky, Keenum, and now Kyle Allen in here, and that's great. But I do think there's a point where they're going to get a younger guy in here who can build his way up as maybe a longer-term backup quarterback, that you're not making this change every year.
That's fair.
Because Josh should be, it's year 6, next year 7. He's your guy.
Yeah.
It seemed funny before if you had another, quote, young quarterback. Josh is in the middle of his career now. He's not the
Yeah.
young guy anymore. So I was thinking about that because I'm like, both of those guys ended up getting other opportunities. This is what happens. But let's see how Kyle Allen plays. Maybe he gets some opportunities. Maybe he moves on to something else. But it'll be interesting to see how they handle the full quarterback position in the future.
That's a good idea, because that way you have some sustainability. You
Yeah.
can kind of develop a guy, as opposed to having someone new every season who you're
Yep.
trying to teach the offense to, trying to see if he has what it takes. I mean, the Bills drafted Jake Fromm in 2020, but obviously that was an incredibly strange year. He was the kind of the COVID QB.
Yeah.
And that was just a strange situation. Let's see, we talked about middle linebacker. We've talked about Jordan Phillips. We talked about Khalil Shakir. We talked about Kyle Allen.
And you wanted to mention someone you saw make a play.
Boogie Basham. He made a play today. Batted down a pass today at practice. I was talking a little bit about how I haven't really seen him do anything. Today, I saw him.
Yes, he did. He made a play. And actually, I've seen him knock down a couple of passes. I mean, again, his versatility is the key for Boogie to be on this roster and to play. I really don't think he's going anywhere. He's got a couple years left on his deal. He's got to show some stuff. And I'm going to go with Bobby Babbage and say the same thing. Fun name to say, Boogie Basham.
If we're talking about words,
Yeah.
the word comfortability just,
You have a problem with that word.
it doesn't seem like a real word. I feel like the first time I heard it was like 2 years ago. And why wouldn't you just say more comfortable?
I think we create words in sports a lot. I think there's just certain things that we want to, it's like, no, athleticism has always been a word, but I was trying to think, where we use these, only in sports do we talk about them. And now I'm drawing a blank on some of them, but it's just the idea that's like,
Okay, no, in the last, do you remember hearing the word comfortability like years ago?
I never paid it much attention to it.
More comfortable. Do you feel more comfortable in the offense? What's your level of comfortability in the offense?
That's when it's I think that's a created word. You don't
No,
like
but I think it's a real word.
it is?
I'm pretty sure.
I thought it was just one of those sports words that, we say it so we feel like,
It's real.
yeah, yes.
I think it's a real word.
Okay.
It's not mediocre.
Meritocracy. That's a real
I
word.
hate that word, yeah.
That's an
Meritocracy.
SAT test word, right?
Yeah. You can tell how I did on the SATs, by the way. Communications major here.
Yeah.
All right. Let's be done. Like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions, send them in for Mike.
And I wanted to say quickly, we've had people come up to us about Buffalo
Oh,
Plus.
yes.
We love it. Come say hi.
Very kind.
Tell us what you like. Tell your friends about the channel. And we really do appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we really, sincerely, we really do. It's honestly been really cool to see. So thank you so much for all the support. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy what we put out. Thank you so much for Mike, Dan, who's at home. I'm Jenna. We'll catch you next time here on Buffalo Plus.